I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into the heartwarming Halloween tale, The Ugly Pumpkin by Howard Friedlander. This charming story follows Pumpy, a unique pumpkin who dreams of becoming a jack-o'-lantern, despite being different from others in the patch. Through his delightful narrative, the author treats readers of all ages to lessons that true beauty comes from character, not appearance, making it the perfect story for Halloween and beyond. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Skylark Media for helping us put him in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his wonderful book. The links are below the interview. Howard, great to see you here today on Spotlight. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. This is such a great and powerful message about self-acceptance in your story. Tell us a little bit about how you came up with this story of a pumpkin who feels like he doesn't quite belong.
Well, I would say the short version is that you're looking at Pumpy. I was Pumpy the pumpkin. I was a very shy, withdrawn child, and very much living within myself. And basically, I was afraid of everything. As a small child, my parents, money was always a problem in our household. Both my parents worked, and I was left, excuse me, in the care of my grandmother, who was a European immigrant and spoke broken English. What was different, what worked for me, I guess, I would say, is that I had a very vivid imagination, always did. And whether it was, I was blessed with it. Wherever it came from, I was grateful. But I would get lost in my room and conjure up all these stories and great adventures. And I was always the hero at the end, and overcoming all kinds of problems and saving lives and whatever. And that basically carried me through my childhood and allowed me to retreat into myself and into my stories and not have to deal with the outside world. And I guess I just want to pause a second and say that there was a movie, Field of Dreams, which I'm sure you remember. And in that movie, it was an important movie for me. I was already a successful writer when I saw it, but there's a line in the movie. It's the Burt Lancaster character, who's a ball player who becomes a doctor. And at one point he says, and I'm paraphrasing, I really don't remember exactly how it was worded, but he basically says, "We never know the significant moments of our lives when they are happening." And that really, really resonated with me because I've had so many significant moments, because like a lot of people do. And I never realized they're happening when they happen. It's only when you look back, what made me choose this door as opposed to that door, go up that road instead of the other road. When you look back, you can see how that transpired. Anyway, I was 9 years old when I started my writing career, interestingly enough. I had skipped the fourth grade. I was just plucked out of my class and put into the fifth grade. Now, I had a few friends. I was still the very shy, withdrawn child, but I had a comfort zone in the fourth grade. I was used to it. I liked all the people around me. I liked the teacher. And now I was thrust into this new world. I was the youngest. I was always a small kid, not a big man. And so this was really a blow to my esteem, as little as I had at that time. I really withdrew. I didn't want to speak to anybody. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't understand why I was skipped. Well, obviously, the school decided I could handle that work, and I was beyond the fourth grade work that I was being given. It was too easy for me. But I didn't understand that, nor did I care. I just didn't want to be in the fifth grade. Well, about halfway through the term, the teacher gave a writing assignment to the class, and it was write about something something you've done, vacation with your parents, a trip to the museum or the zoo, whatever, someone important that you met. Well, I had none of these things. I had never been to the zoo. I had never been to a park. I had never gone on a trip with my parents. I was totally at a loss of what to do, and I had this knot in my stomach. But then I decided, well, I'll just write another story. So I wrote this story at 9 years old about this dog, a scruffy scoundrel dog called Barney, who lives in the fields, has no home, scrounges for food, and he would go into the town every day nearby, and he'd try to beg for food, try to get some handouts. Well, nobody liked this dirty looking mongrel, and they'd throw stones and sticks at him and whatever. And he was shunned, and he would slink off into the fields, and that's where he would sleep and shiver in the cold all night long. Well, one night he wakes up and the fields are on fire, and he's filled, well, the smoke is filling his lungs. Well, he jumps up and he races into the town, and he jumps on every door and every window, and he barks as loud as he can, and he wakes everyone up, and they come out first. They're angry about this dog that they don't want to begin with. And when they see the flames, well, they all band together and they put out the fire, and they realize that Barney the dog, well, Barney becomes Pumpy later on. Anyway, Barney has saved them, has saved the town, and Barney is now a hero, and Barney is accepted. Excuse me. And Barney is well fed and can sleep in any house that he wants. Well, the teacher read the story to the class, and it resonated with the class. And suddenly, all these kids who didn't look at me, who didn't talk to me, suddenly I was sort of a celebrity at the age of 9. Well, it didn't really open up my shell that much. It was just nice to get the pats on the back and to get congratulated. And I went on to write several other stories during that school year, all about a dog. I just repeated my successful formula. Anyway, it made me realize that I had a refuge in my words, and it was a way I could communicate with people. And it protected me, but it also allowed me to participate in a sense, to communicate with people. And as I grew up, I realized that's what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a professional writer. But I was still a shy kid. I didn't know how to break through, how to do that. I went to college. I took writing courses. I came out of school. Fortunately, I met a man by the name of Ed Spielman, who became my lifelong friend. To this day, we're close friends. And he was my complete opposite. He was the extrovert. I was the introvert. He wanted to be a writer also. And he was very interested in the Far East and the martial arts. And he had written a story about this samurai warrior who travels to northern China to a place called the Shaolin Temple and befriends this monk who was trained in this martial art called Kung Fu. Now, back in the day, this is, I don't know, I think around 1970, I don't remember the exact date. No one in America, no American anyway, knew anything about Kung Fu. Nobody ever heard of it. And he had somehow come across this in all his research. Anyway, he tried to sell this story. He wrote a story, but he tried to sell it. Nobody was interested because it just didn't relate to anything American. And one day, as we were walking down Broadway, I had this, well, if I was a cartoon character, it would be the light bulb lighting up on top of my head. It was just this explosion in my brain. And I said, Ed, it's a Western. And he turned to me and he said, what are you talking about? I said, the monk. What if he's half Chinese and half American? He's the son of his American seaman who married his Chinese girl. They pass away, and the grandfather sends him to the Shaolin Temple. Well, he's a half breed. He's not accepted by the Chinese. He's a fish out of water. And what does he do? He comes to America in search of his identity. And I didn't realize it at the time, but there I was writing Barney again. But anyway, that became the Kung Fu television series and launched our writing career.
Amazing.
Yeah, well, we had
Which was one of the biggest hits of the 1970s.
Yeah,
Every
yes,
kid in
it
my
was.
schoolyard was playing Kung Fu and calling each other grasshopper and all of that stuff. It was,
This is true. I wish we, I wish we had patented or whatever copyrighted grasshopper, because I see that on every other TV show. It's just part of the vocabulary today.
yes.
Anyway, along the way, I got married and I have 3 kids. Well, my daughter came along with my wife, but then we had 2 boys together. And after I don't know how many years of successful writing, we were selling things at a fairly reasonably good pace, let's say. I was making a living, a nice living. We hit a dry spell. And I had a mortgage now and a wife and 3 kids, and starting to get desperate. And well, along came another significant moment in my life. A friend of mine, a fellow I had met when I was in school and I was working as a page for CBS part-time. Joel Kozowski was his name. He had become the producer of the Captain Kangaroo show. And I don't know how many of you viewers remember Captain Kangaroo, but 30 years it was on the air. It was an award-winning show. Anyway, he asked me to write for the show, and I was at a loss. I'm writing kung fu and these adult shows and action things. I don't know if I can write this. So, but desperate, I tried. I wrote 1 script. It worked. He liked it. He told me to do another one. I did another one. Then I did a third. Then he hired me full time. Well, jumping ahead, I was there for 7 years. I became the head writer for the last 6 years of the show. Wow. Second year there, I became the head writer of the show. I wrote over 100 Captain Kangaroo shows. But then that came to an end. And now I was faced with a career choice. Which way do I go? Do I try to write in the children's world, or do I go back to the adult world? Well, there wasn't much opportunity at that time for me in children's television. So I gravitated towards writing adult TV shows and film. But my wife kept saying to me a number of times, she said, you really miss Captain Kangaroo. I know you do. Why don't you write a children's book? So I thought about it and really didn't have any direction, any idea or whatever. But I remember one year, Halloween was approaching, and I took my sons to the market to get pumpkins, so we could carve their jack-o'-lanterns. And my younger son picked up this pumpkin, and he dropped it, and it smashed on the floor, and the whole side of it just collapsed. And he said, "Oh, that is an ugly mess. That pumpkin will never make a jack-o'-lantern." And there was that light bulb. And I said, "That's my book. I'm going to write about an ugly pumpkin." Well, of course, it was easy to say that's what I'm going to write about. Now, how do I go about doing that? Who is this ugly pumpkin? How do I humanize him? How do I make him relatable to kids? What's the story? And my initial instinct was, well, this is what I've been writing about all my life. It's the object, the person, or the dog that does not belong, that seeks recognition, that is shunned by everyone around him, is shy, withdrawn, and in fear of the world around him. Anyway, that's how the ugly pumpkin was born, and that was the story. And I started to think about the pumpkin patch, and what would the ugly pumpkin want to be? He'd want to be a jack-o'-lantern like all the other pumpkins, but he can't be a jack-o'-lantern because he's the ugly pumpkin. So he runs away. And the significant moment in Pumpy's life is when he meets Blinky. Well, the first significant moment. Blinky is a very important character to me and in the book. Blinky has never seen a pumpkin before. So he doesn't know that Pumpy is ugly. So he relates to Pumpy, to his personality, to who he is. They have a conversation. They hit it off. He couldn't care less what he looked like because he had no frame of reference, for one thing. Appearance was not important. Character was important to Blinky. And they become friends. And then, of course, the next significant moment is when it starts to rain and all the jack-o'-lanterns go out. And for the first time, Pumpy is basically, he sees the world that he wants to be part of going away. So he just comes out of his shell, and for one of the first times in his life, he's not thinking about himself. He's not looking for his acceptance and whatever. And he suddenly sees the world around him disappearing, and he reacts, and he knows he's got to do something. So with the help of Blinky, they save Halloween. And then I remember when I was writing this story, I said, well, what do I do now? So he saved Halloween, but he's still the ugly pumpkin. He cannot be a jack-o'-lantern. Well, now, what if he's better, bigger than just the jack-o'-lantern? So he becomes the chief pumpkin, the chief jack-o'-lantern. And I thought that was just the greatest ending, because there was another lesson there. Where you think you want to fit is not necessarily where you're going to fit. Where you think your life's purpose is not necessarily your life's purpose. And anyway, the book resonated with me, and apparently it resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how it all came full circle from Barney when you were a kid in grammar school, writing about a dog that was misunderstood, a bit of an outcast, to the character in Kung Fu. Of course, he was a bit of an outcast. Pumpy is a bit of an outcast. So you're doing a great job. Maybe even Captain Kangaroo was a bit of an outcast in his own way. Certainly looks strange.
Yes.
The name of the book we've been talking about today, folks, is called The Ugly Pumpkin. It is a charming story that follows Pumpy, a unique pumpkin who dreams of becoming a jack-o'-lantern despite being different from the others in the patch. Through this delightful narrative, readers of all ages will learn that true beauty comes from character, not appearance, making it the perfect story for Halloween and beyond. Howard, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure having you on the show. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.